A lot of athletes will take out a full-page ad, usually when they leave. You took one out as you got started, and it says, "Dear Los Angeles, you're welcome."
You already know what time it is. Zlatan Ibrahimović is probably the most outspoken top-level footballer of the past decade. There is no other consistently elite player I can think of that speaks as much smack as this man. Perhaps this reservation from others is out of fear of an embarrassing failure. Maybe it's the fear of getting clipped and memed for the rest of their existence. Apparently, Zlatan does not have this fear. And despite getting up there in age, he's only gotten better and better, which is normal. Experience usually prevails over most other traits, but 60% of his career goals coming after turning 30, coupled with 16 major trophies, really is quite something. He's just come off yet another fruitful season, won the Scudetto at the tender age of 40, provided a much-needed killer mentality to a young Milan not used to silverware, and played through injury. To you and me, that is not normal. But then again, according to the man himself,
lions, they don't compare themselves with humans.
Okay, but in all seriousness, today we're going to be diving into the tale of Zlatan Ibrahimović in his later years to track the incredible career of the man and why you can never really count him out. With that being said, how good is Zlatan after turning 30? Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe, welcome back to another video. At the end of the day, you either love him or you hate him. Whichever side you lean more towards, there's no denying his talent. In case you're not aware, this video is actually part 2 for the Zlatan before 30 video I made, Jesus Christ, almost a year ago. As you can see, my turnaround time for sequels is astounding. Picking up where we previously left off in 2011, Ibra had just won the league with AC Milan after a rather successful loan period from Barcelona. Surprise, surprise, the loan was made permanent the following year. 24 million euros. Literally dirt cheap for a man of this caliber. A 35-goal return that very year pretty much proves that point. But despite his scoring efforts and the backing of a strong Milan, an invincible season from Juventus was a bit too much to handle in his second year. Which seems about right. I mean, you can't complain if you can't beat a team that literally takes 0 L's. In any case, while all of this was happening, somewhere off in the distance, a fairly mid-table team in Paris was being taken over by a country. A country that would go on to put well over 1 billion euros into the purchasing of players over the next decade. A slew of domestic silverware came pouring in, but unfortunately, as others have also found out, the Champions League doesn't have a price tag. And neither does competent running of a club, apparently. But I digress. Ibrahimović became one of the many players and supporting staff that was brought into the new-look PSG in 2012. And if we're being completely honest, he was and probably still is the most important one to have come. And the words of the legendary Jean-Pierre Papin sum up the reason for this pretty well. We haven't had a goal scorer like him in France for a long time. He is on a different planet to anyone else. The reason these words were so powerful is because Papin was probably thinking of himself when making this claim. In the 34 years between 1979 and 2013, Papin was the only player in the French top flight to break the 30-goal mark in a single season, doing it back in 1990. Zlatan did that in his very first year in France. The effect this guy had on the team and the French division as a whole is honestly quite astounding. A true leader, a confident, imposing figure, and most importantly, a proven winner. Unsurprisingly, PSG won their first Liga title in 19 years thanks largely to Ibra's contribution in his first year. But that was only the beginning, as 3 more would follow in back-to-back-to-back-to-back seasons. Okay, so this next bit doesn't actually have anything to do with PSG, but he did it while he was a PSG player, so I kinda have to mention it. In a friendly against England in 2012, Zlatan scored what is a very strong contender for the greatest goal in international football history. It's definitely one of the greatest goals in recorded football history, period. A ridiculous overhead kick from way back in field, and I vividly remember watching this live and seeing the reactions from the internet. This dude is probably the only player I could think of that would even try this seemingly nonsense shot. Insane. Going back to France, Ibra's time in this country was remarkable for several reasons. The first is obviously his goal scoring and team contributions. In the 4 years he spent at the club, he became PSG's all-time top scorer after all. By quite a bit too. But, of course, that is not all. This is Zlatan Ibrahimović we're talking about. The man was and always has been a ruffler of feathers on the pitch and an unprecedented quote machine off of it. It's true, I don't know that much about Ligue 1, but Ligue 1 knows who I am. Saying that before even playing a match in France pretty much set the tone for what would be a crazy time. There was also the time that PSG lost to Bordeaux by 3-2 in the league in 2015. A controversial performance by the referee led to an even more controversial response from Zlatan. I've played 15 years and I've never seen referees as bad as in this shit country. They don't even deserve PSG in this country. We're too good for all of you. I think he was upset, but of course I can't confirm. And he didn't exactly win over many of the local French population with that quote either. Also, this outburst came only a few days after he called Chelsea's players a bunch of babies for trying and succeeding to get him sent off on a Champions League round of 16 matchup. The guy has a very big mouth, but just about nobody can say that he doesn't back it up almost every single time. Likewise, almost nobody can argue with his departing words from the end of his PSG contract. I came like a king, I left like a legend. Fair enough, mate. Moving along, he was going to need to bring all of his greatest qualities to make his next move a success. Manchester United. And this move made way too much sense. On one hand, you have a team that absolutely everybody loves to hate and is definitely not in the best of shape. And then on the other hand, you have a player that just about everyone loves to hate, but is in the best of shape. Also, Jose Mourinho was in the mix too. Pogba was there. It was a wild time. Anyway, as is the case for just about any player that hasn't played in England before, there was chatter that he wouldn't be able to hack it in the Premier League. 28 goals in his first season as a 36-year-old definitely said otherwise. And it really is no coincidence that United enjoyed what is still their most successful season since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson when Zlatan was fit and firing for them. The tin pot treble of the Community Shield, League Cup and Europa League isn't much to brag about for a club of this stature. But silverware is silverware, and beggars can't be choosers. Fun, but also strange fact, the Europa League win is actually the only piece of club European silverware that Zlatan's won in his entire career. Which is kinda odd to think about. He has to be one of the best players to ever live that hasn't won the Champions League, right? Let me know who else is on that list in the comments. However, all good things must come to an end, as United fans are all painfully well aware of. A pretty nasty injury sustained at the back end of the 16-17 season left the man on the sidelines for just about the rest of his United career. And it all came to a close in March of 2018 when United and Zlatan parted ways by mutual consent. And if you thought that the Manchester United move made sense, the next one was so fitting it's almost like someone was writing a fan fiction. The man literally went full Hollywood, even renting out a full page of ad space in the LA Times simply stating, "Dear Los Angeles, you're welcome." Zlatan Ibrahimović and LA Galaxy. A match made in heaven. And I really don't think he needed to rent out ad space, as an extremely impressive brace in his full debut for the club did the talking for him quite well. As we all know, the man loves a good volley. 38 years old by the time he was ready to move on, and it honestly looked like the league was too easy for him. 53 goals in 58 matches is pretty insane for a player who was apparently in the twilight of their career. The team as a whole didn't fare all that well in the grand scheme of things, I must say. But why let that little detail get in the way of a good story? Anyway, after 2 years, his time in the US came to a close. He had accomplished exactly what he set out to from day one, getting in front of a US audience in the show business capital of the world, showing that he is still an elite athlete, boasting his one-of-a-kind personality, and expanding his personal brand. Job done, back to Europe. You wanted Zlatan, I gave you Zlatan. You are welcome. Now go back to watch baseball. This guy, man. Moving along. Before you go ahead and assume that an outfield player fast approaching 40 and surrounded by 20-year-olds would sign on for a lower league team, collect a paycheck and ride it out to retirement, think again. The beginning of this video has now become the end. We've gone full circle and find ourselves at Milan once again. Just like when he joined PSG, he was joining an AC Milan squad that was yearning for a bit of tangible success. Winning major titles was a bit of a foreign concept for the vast majority of the Milan team he was coming into. In fact, the team was just coming off a bit of a sustained period in which they were the butt of very many jokes. Obviously, there were very many other contributing factors, ownership, leadership, etc. But coincidentally, this banter period more or less began almost exactly when Zlatan left the first time around. In any case, again, there was a bit of chatter early on about whether he would be able to hack it in a top league in his old age. But I guess to manage the risk, as is customary, he was only signed on for a 6-month period with an option to extend if the experiment was a success. But remember, this is Zlatan Ibrahimović we're talking about. You already know that it was a success. In his first year and a half back, somehow he managed to either score or assist almost every time he stepped on the pitch. The guy is insane. But even though his on-field output was ridiculous, it probably wasn't even the most impressive thing he's done over there. The leadership, the experience, the drive, it was something that helped elevate the squad tremendously. All of this culminated with Milan becoming the kings of Italy once more in the 21-22 season, 11 years after they last did it. Unfortunately, Ibrahimović was injured for much of the year, so did not make as much of an on-field contribution as he would have wanted to. But, like I've already said, even without physically being on the pitch, you already know he had a sizable hand in getting them over the line. And with all the 1-goal margin wins they had this year, about 13 in total, you already know this was quite the grind. They definitely needed that bit of motivation and team unity. Which brings us to today. Following the season, Zlatan announced that he had been playing through injury for an astounding 6 months. Thankfully, he's since undergone corrective surgery and is apparently going to be out for about 7 months, at the very least. By the time he's expected to be back, he will be well into his 42nd year on Earth. So what does this mean for his career at the top level? I mean, listen, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, retirement seems like it's looming closer and closer. But one thing I can say for certain is that we simply cannot brush the idea of him going on even longer. He seems to have a habit of proving people wrong. And there we have it, a brief synopsis of Zlatan Ibrahimovic's career after turning the big 3-0. What do you guys think of the great man? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're feeling generous, why not go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram, but only if you want to. That is all from me today. I really hope you guys enjoyed, hope you're all staying well. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.